It's the biggest game of the season so far for the Boston Bruins, and it's going to determine whether or not management believes this is a group worth buying into.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Ian McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team and the NHL for various outlets for nearly 20 years. On today's episode, we are going to tee up tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens, one that David Pastrnak himself has called the most important game they've had this year. We will also update the Atlantic Division power rankings and do a full tale of the tape between the Bruins and the Habs heading into tonight's game. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. As I mentioned off the top, this is Locked On Boston Bruins, and this is where we discuss all things spoke to be every single day. The Bruins, heading into tonight's game, can certainly feel the importance of this game. They are 1-2-1 on a current 5-game homestand. Very disappointing results so far. They beat Utah. Then they went on to lose to Edmonton, a shootout loss to the Vancouver Canucks, and then the absolute beatdown by the Ottawa Senators on Sunday, where they lost 6-2. A 3-game losing streak at home. It's a stretch. We had 10 big points on the table. You're at home. You have Charlie McAvoy back. You have David Pastrnak back after a brief injury. Jeremy Swayman playing at a pretty decent level lately. And it's just all kind of, I don't want to say falling apart, but it has not gone according to plan. And David Pastrnak told reporters on Monday that he can feel the importance of this one. This whole team can feel the importance of it. You can call it the most important game they've had this year. It's a big game for the Bruins, he said, and they need to bounce back ahead of the Christmas break. It's the Montreal Canadiens. It's very easy to get motivated, especially the way the last couple of games went. And he went as far as to call it a must-win. The Bruins have been a pretty streaky team so far this season. They won a few to begin the season. They won on a losing streak. Then they went on a bigger winning streak. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag. And we talked yesterday about how, look, the goaltending has not been a problem for this team. They are a top 11 team in terms of save percentage, 5-on-5. But they have a propensity to allow way too many high danger scoring chances, shots regularly outshot, out-attempted, and they really need to tighten things up. They have their 3 best defensemen back in the lineup, healthy. Yeah, the depth is being tested with Henry Jokiharju out, Jordan Harris out. This is a game where they have to really lock it down and stay out of the penalty box. And look, tonight's game won't determine Boston's fate because there's so much season left, but it is incredibly important against a longtime rival. It's a game that has major implications in the standings, but it's also one where you can reassert your dominance over a long-time rival and gain some much-needed momentum heading into the holiday break. And afterwards, they have a 5-game road trip that will begin in Buffalo, go through Canada, and then end in Seattle. So you want to head into the break on a high note, enjoy some time with your family, and then get ready for like an almost 2-week road trip coming up here after Christmas. Marco Sturm said yesterday it is important. Not sure if it's the most important. Look, every game is important. For them, though, he's saying it's a one-game series. That's how he's looking at it. There's different reasons for where we're at as a team and as an organization. Meaning the Canadiens, they made the playoffs last season. They're looking to show that the rebuild is over, that they are a team to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. The Bruins are looking to erase last season's downswing and prove that they are once again a relevant team. And I know a lot of you are thinking it's the most important game of the season. It could chart the course for whether they're buyers or sellers. They should be sellers. I'm not in that mode right now. I think they should sell when possible, like Victor Arvidsson, Andrew Peeke, your pending unrestricted free agents, or guys that you may determine aren't part of the core moving forward. Maybe you think Casey Middlestat belongs in that group. Maybe you think Pavel Zacha belongs in that group. For me, those two, you eliminate them from the roster, and then it's a question of who fills those holes. Arvidsson, replaceable. He's been injured. Peeke hasn't been that great this season. If you're looking to sell, those are two guys. Plus, just removing Eunice Korpisalo from the roster altogether. Anyways, Sturm is hopeful. Sunday's loss was a bit of a wake-up call, and his players can use it as motivation. He said he had a bad night Sunday night, but he's already excited about today because he knows his guys, he knows his players, he knows his group. These guys care. There's never been a doubt, and he knows they're going to give a response, not just for the team, but for this organization and also for the fans. This is a group that is intent on proving that they are competitive, that they're capable. They don't want to be seen as a failing group that's worth giving up on and selling and can't compete together as a core. You have your three core guys, the triumvirate I've talked about before, Jeremy Swayman, Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak, all in their primes and ready to compete. You have Morgan Geekie, who's got 50 goals in 2025. You have Hampus Lindholm, Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, Pavel Zacha as your secondary core. Casey Middlestat, still young, contributing. And then this piss and vinegar bottom six that you have banked on as being harder to play against and also at times contributing offensively. So this is the group. This is a competitive group. They're not going to be content sitting back. They don't care about getting high draft picks. They don't care about getting prospects in the pipeline. What they care about is winning night in and night out. These guys have pride. And again, you subtract anybody from this roster and they're going to be worse, arguably. Like Fabian Lysel's not going to come in as a savior. Now there's Matt Poitras this season. And then if you subtract these guys, then who's filling those holes? And the picks, prospects you bring in might not be able to make an impact for 2, 3, 4 years, if at all. Like there's no guarantees there. They're going to ride with this group. They believe it can be competitive and challenge for a playoff spot, and rightly so, in a pretty wide open Eastern Conference. And this game will go a long way towards showing us whether they are a team to be believed in, even just as a wildcard team. And a lot of people say, who cares about getting into the playoffs if you're just going to get wiped in the first round? There's no guarantees either way. You get in, you have a chance. You tank, you have a chance at a high pick. But as we saw last year, you could finish pretty low and still move back in the lottery. And while last season was a deep draft and they were able to get James Higgins, this draft is supposed to be pretty deep as well. There are still no guarantees. And they could still get that high pick from Toronto thanks to last year's sell-off in the Brandon Carlo trade. all that to say, I do believe in this group as a playoff team. Yeah, wildcard team, whatever. Get in. Who knows what's going to happen? And the Bruins are more fun. And yeah, it's just better when the Bruins are competing for a playoff spot. I don't get the mentality of tanking, losing, selling. Like, that's not fun. Life is short. They have a group of good players right now, a couple great ones, and I want them to go out tonight and just absolutely take it to the Montreal Canadiens. And it's a game we'll do the tale of the tape of later on in the podcast. Coming up right now, we're going to update the Atlantic Division power rankings. NFL Sundays move incredibly fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel and just get into it. You can be part of every single play with FanDuel, and it's not just for the NFL as well. You can get into the action with the NHL. And for example, tonight's Bruins Canadiens game, the over-under is set at 5.5. So you can get in on the action, put some money down on that, and you're good to go. FanDuel, get into the action all season long. All right, Bruins and Canadiens tonight. Before we tee that one up, we are going to update the Atlantic Division power rankings. It's a very big night around the NHL, and we are going to take a look at those power rankings heading into it tonight. The Bruins right now, if you look at the division, go by point percentage, they're currently 6th. And there's no team under 500 right now in the Atlantic. The Toronto Maple Leafs currently in last place, which is something we love to see because the Bruins do indeed have that draft pick of theirs. Actually, yesterday, the Maple Leafs fired Mark Savard, who was an assistant coach. They think that's going to help. I don't know. He was coaching the power play. The power play hasn't been great for them. They're not bringing anybody in. The Bruins have their power play guru in Steve Spott right now. Hey, maybe they could still bring Mark Savard in some capacity. That would be pretty nice to fire him right before Christmas. Not cool. And the Maple Leafs, 15-5, 35 points in 35 games, and they are down in 500. The Buffalo Sabres have won 6 games in a row. They are 543 point percentage, 17-14-4, and they will be in action tonight, looking to extend that winning streak. Who are the Sabres playing tonight? Let's take a look. Sabres will be playing the Senators. So that's a big one to keep an eye on the out-of-town scoreboard because the Bruins are kind of sandwiched in between the Sabres and Senators right now. Boston has 41 points so far this season, but they've played 37 games. So their point percentage is 554. Look, they're only 4 points out of first place in the Atlantic Division, but they're 6 point up on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Leafs have 2 games in hand. So that shows you how tight things are and how easily things can swing. If the Sabres win tonight and say the Bruins lose, then Buffalo will be 1 point back with 2 games in hand, and they will be playing each other on Saturday. The Senators, having beaten the Bruins, they've won 4 games in a row as well. So right now, you're going bottom to top. It's the Maple Leafs, the Sabres, but they're the hottest team in the division with 6 straight wins. And then you have the Bruins, who are 5-4-1 in their past 10 games, slightly behind the Ottawa Senators, who are at 571, and the Florida Panthers, who are at 571 as well. And they've won, they're like 7-2-1 over their past 10 games. Then you have the Montreal Canadiens, Tampa Bay Lightning, tied at 597 point percentage. And in first place right now, the Detroit Red Wings, despite the fact they have a negative goal differential. If you're ranking these teams by goal differential, it's Tampa Bay at plus 22. Then you have Ottawa at plus 7. And then Boston, Florida, each at 0. The Bruins have scored the most goals in the Atlantic Division, but they've also allowed the second most goals. The only other team with more goals allowed is the Montreal Canadiens. They have a -5 goal differential. So it's super tight. If you're going by points, it's Detroit, Montreal, Tampa, Boston, then Florida, Ottawa, Buffalo, Montreal. But the Bruins have played 37 games and only have 41 points. So a 554 point percentage puts them currently in 6th. But look, things can change every single night in the Atlantic, in the East. If you extend it to the entire Eastern Conference, the Bruins right now have, I think they're 9th in terms of points, or tied with New Jersey for 8th. But when you kick it to point percentage, they are in 12th right now. It just goes to show you how tight things are. If the Bruins had picked up 3 more points on this homestand, they'd be 3rd in the entire Eastern Conference. Every point matters. Every game matters. And the fact that they have picked up only 3 points so far out of a possible 8 on this homestand, it's not disastrous, but it goes to show you just how important every point is for this team. And they're right there in the thick of it. None of these teams are necessarily juggernauts, right? You have Carolina in first place. You can see them as being rightfully one of the best teams in the East. But then you have Philly, Detroit as your second and third teams. Montreal, the Islanders are in the mix. Like, it's wide open right now. And the Bruins have an opportunity to be one of those competitive teams. Like I said yesterday, I'm not comparing the Bruins to last season. I'm comparing them to 2 seasons ago. The team that in the first year, post-Bergeron, post-Krejci, they were led down the middle by Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha. You didn't have Morgan Geekie breaking out yet. David Pastrnak playing at a high level. And they were able to beat the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, take the Florida Panthers to Game 6. They still did have Linus Ullmark, and that's probably the biggest difference right now for the Bruins, is that Jeremy Swayman has played well, and we'll look at his stats coming up here in a moment. Joonas Korpisalo is not cutting it as the backup goaltender. You can't even give your number 1 guy a break, and that's one of the big reasons why the Bruins have not been as good as possible this season, is because they don't have that 2-headed goaltenders. They only have one guy who has to be at his best every single night because the defense is allowing a good number of shots, scoring chances, and high danger chances. Goaltending has not been the problem for this team. So that's the power rankings. Coming up, we're going to look at the tail of the tape for tonight's game between the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens. A quick thank you for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already done so, please go check out our new Everydayer Club. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Boston Bruins, which is compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts is what I use. You can also join the Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. All you have to do is go to lockedonbruins.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Please do join the Everydayer Club today and gift it to someone if they are in need of a last-minute gift. All right, Bruins, Canadiens tonight. It's the second of 4 meetings between these two teams this season. The Bruins did win the first game back on November 15th by a score of 3-2. It was a game in which the Bruins went 7 for 7 on the penalty kill, and Marat Husnudinov scored, as well as Mason Lohrei, and the game winner came from Victor Arvidsson. In that game, Jeremy Swayman got the start, and he made 26 saves on 28 shots, allowing an even strength goal and a shorthanded goal. The Bruins coming into this one, not extremely hot, let's say. They are 5-4-1 over their last 10 games. They've lost 3 in a row. The Canadiens coming in 5-3-2 over their last 10. They are coming off a shootout loss to Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. In net, they have Jacob Dobas and Sam Montembeault. Dobas has an .894 save percentage. Montembeault rocking an .857 mark. Swayman likely getting the start. .906 save percentage. Much better than Joonas Korpisalo's .880. And again, looking back, if it were me, I would have given Korpisalo the start against Vancouver and then saved Swayman for the game against Ottawa on Sunday. As it happened, he played Sunday anyways after Korpisalo got yanked after allowing 5 goals. The Canadiens are led in scoring over the last 5 games by Lane Hudson. He's got 6 assists. Nick Suzuki with 2 goals to lead the team in that stat. Morgan Geekie with 3 goals, 4 points for the Bruins. Charlie McAvoy with 3 assists over the past 5 games. And he was pretty open the other day about how difficult his recent injury was, even more so than the one he suffered last year, where he openly admitted to struggling mentally with that. He said it was the most frustrating injury he's ever had. But he's thankful to be back. He's thankful for his wife, Kylie, who gets him through everything, and for his family. They came up and spent a lot of time with him. Don't forget, he's got a pretty young child, and they helped with his son, Reese. His family was there for everything that he needed, and he's playing pretty well. He went on to have a few assists since his return, and he's been an integral part of this team all season long. 3 points in his last 5 games. He has yet to find the back of the net, but he's got he does have 1 goal so far this season. 19 points in 25 games puts him on his best offensive pace over a full season. Now, the Canadiens can score. They have 3.19 goals per game, which is exactly the same as the Boston Bruins. 8th and 9th, they're tied, respectively. And in terms of goals allowed per game, 3.31 for the Canadiens, which is 24th. The Bruins, 3.22, which is 22nd. I don't know. A lot of people talking about the Bruins. They're tight defensively. They've shored things up. It's not necessarily the case. They're pretty leaky defensively. They allow a lot of high danger chances, scoring chances. They're in the bottom third of the NHL in those categories. shows you how good Swayman has been. They really need to tighten that up. Special teams wise, these guys are very even, like all down the board. The Canadiens have the 6th ranked power play. The Bruins have the 7th ranked power play. 25.8% success rate for the Canadiens, 25.7% success rate for the Bruins. Penalty kill, the Bruins are slightly better, 79.6% success rate, although that has slipped a lot in recent weeks. Canadiens are 22nd at 77.6. And then again, 8th, well, they're tied for offense and then defense. Bruins are a bit better. So the Bruins are better team defense and penalty kill, and that hopefully will be the difference tonight. We say it every game, right? They need to stay out of the penalty box. They never do, but that is a huge need for the Bruins tonight, is to stay out of the penalty box. Right now, going back to Charlie McAvoy, he said, this game against the Canadiens will kind of bring back some memories of that injury that he suffered. It was in Montreal, slap shot to the face. He said he was grateful for the doctors in Montreal as well as in Boston that took such good care of him. When you come back, you appreciate the people who helped you get back every time, and he's grateful to be on the other side of it, on track, getting healthy, and looking to close out this homestand on a positive before the holiday break. He's a competitor. He wants to help this team win, like him, Pastrnak. They want to be guys who, they don't want to be remembered for being a part of a core that just kind of tanked after Bergeron left, after Krejci left, after Brad Marchand was traded. They want to be guys who are remembered as those who took up the mantle after they left and kept this team at its level of competitiveness, of contendership, of being one of the top clubs in the league that guys want to play for and guys don't want to play against. You got to know that Charlie McAvoy has a ton of pride, as does David Pastrnak, Jeremy Swayman, Morgan Geekie, Nikita Zadorov, the Lindholms. These are guys who want to take the Bruins back to the highest of heights, if not at least competing for the Stanley Cup in the playoffs. And we need to see that pride on full display tonight in this game against the Canadiens. Another game like the Senators, and there's real questions about, whether these guys have what it takes to restore that shine to the black and gold. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. On tomorrow's podcast, we'll be back with a full recap of tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens. We'll also do a Christmas wish list heading into the break. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Boston Bruins so you get all the latest episodes. You can find the podcast on socials at Locked NHL Bruins. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking you what they want, sign them up for the Everydayer Club. Again, ad-free episodes, exclusive Discord access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonbruins.supercast.com. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel next. First ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you check out the NHL Game Night on the Locked On NHL feed. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. I got to go shovel. We got some snow last night. And catch me tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Where is the end button? Peace.